Welcome to the Live the Call podcast, where I speak with guests living and working their soul's purpose. I'm Pamela Downes, founder of Spirit Calling and trans-channeler of the Great Council of Light. Every episode, our guests share their awakening story, and together we learn how they came to live their spirit's call. Join me in tales of self-discovery, enlightenment, and transformation to amplify your healing journey. Today, I am thrilled to introduce Kristen Numen, a true light in the realms of paranormal and spirituality. With her incredible intuition, her channeling abilities, and mastery in Reiki and Rahani healing, Kristen's journey is nothing short of inspiring. Despite battling a serious heart condition that led to a near-death experience in November, her story is a testament to her resilience and the guiding hand of the divine. Join us as we delve into Kristen's remarkable journey and discover the power of the human spirit. Welcome, Kristen. Hi.
Thank you so much. Hi, Pamela. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. It's so great to see you. And you and I were connected through our sweet and amazing friend, Dina. And when I met you, it was just like this little spark ignited between us. I felt like I knew you forever. And as I started learning about you and your story and, what you've been just recently experiencing and how that's just kind of catapulted you into a new space, I thought it was so interesting that I wanted to, interview you for Live the Call. This podcast it serves as an inspiration. Our community is filled with seekers, people who are just starting out on their spiritual awakening journey or have been and moving into like a new phase of what that is.
Yeah.
So the podcast is called Live the Call, but we know what that means. It means, hearing it. It means listening to it, and it means like actually living it. So I'd love to dive into what your story is like, wherever you think is the beginning of where all the spirituality and paranormal stuff and hearing it started for you.
Yes. So in the summer of 2016 is when it started for me. And I know a lot of people out there, a spiritual awakening is the light bulb aha moment that you realize there's something more. And a lot of people, what triggers them is their own traumatic experiences. Mine was not that way. I live with a serious electrical issue with my heart. And I was forced to stay home. I was a banker for 15 years, forced to stay home, got into a bit of a funk of a depression being at home, not feeling like I was doing anything. My husband was trying to have a certain business endeavor, and he was being kind of dragged along by a person. And when he called me and he said, I had a feeling, this was before I awakened. I had a feeling, I'm like, this person's dragging him along. He's dragging, I just knew it. You just know. And he called me and he goes, he's not selling the company to me after all we've done and all we've been. And my heart broke for him because he's just so hardworking. It was just something so deserving for him. That's what triggered my awakening. I remember just hanging up the phone with him and screaming. I was the only one home in the house. I just screamed and I said, there's got to be something more than someone else pulling the strings. That's when it started.
Yeah.
The 1111s, the 111s. I love to garden, love to garden. And I don't see feathers out there. Feathers all over the place, angel wings. I mean, there was just so many signs. I couldn't, it was just profound. There's no other word for it. It was profound. And then everything opened up like Superman. The seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing, taste, and smell. And I'm not one that can see in my mind's eye. So when that happened, it caused a discussion between my husband, daughter, and I. And I said, could you see in your mind's eye? And they're like, yes. Like they can picture a family all surrounded. I'm like, I totally can't do that. So mine is all spirit. And that's where it began, was in 2016, triggered by an event with my husband.
That's what we say. There's always something,
Yes.
there's always something there could be. And many of the stories when I interview people and my own involve what I call a knockdown, something that kicks you on your butt and makes you see things in a different way. But many of them now are starting and they're instantaneous, and it's
Yes.
happening more quickly. And I think that's so interesting. Yeah. And those signs from the divine, those God winks, I call them, where
Yeah.
you get the 1111s and you get the confirmations and the knowings start to continue. And it's just like a constant flow of connectedness and support, I would say, right? It feels like,
Yes.
okay, I get this. I understand this. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And everything clicked because I remember saying I wasn't a psychic child, and the guides were like, yes, you were. And they put all of these memories in my head. And I'm like, oh my God, I was not insanely, but all of these memories that they put back, and then all of these puzzle pieces come together. It's just really fun when you get like the click with
Yeah,
everything.
that is. That is. And it's maybe sometimes one after the other. And you're like, oh
Yes.
yeah, I forgot about that. Oh no, I forgot about that. Because I had
Yeah.
that with Jesus. Always felt this amazing connection to him since I was a little girl. And I never really understood why. I could only connect it to religion.
Hmm.
And now, moving forward into all these years and all these things, and now I understand why, but it's neat, right? It's really cool.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So what was the next step on that journey? The husband experience happened, and then the aha happened, and the Godwinks were starting.
It was that sponge moments in time, where you can't get enough. I was Googling everything. I had a cat that had passed around that time, my basil baby. And when it was his time, and I said, come back and visit mommy, 2 days after we had to put him down, he came back. And I
Mm.
remember it scared the heck out of me. And I said, I'm so sorry I got scared. This is all new to me. Please come back and see mommy. And he does. So I have two
Oh,
cats that are in spirit, and they come and they visit. But my husband, we are high school sweethearts since we were
sweet.
13 years old. And his stepsister had passed when we were in high school. I never got a chance to actually meet her. But one time I was getting ready in the morning, and all of a sudden, Kim comes through and she goes, I've been waiting for you.
Ooh.
I've been waiting for you to awaken. And it was like, oh my gosh. And the floodgates just opened, and it was just all of these messages and seeing beings around my bed with my physical eyes, and just all of these different things I had to figure out, starting to really get into my shadows because I was bullied
Mm,
growing up by someone close to me. And then, if you don't face those patterns, it just domino effects into other areas of your life, right?
hmm.
When those patterns just keep growing, that's how you know it's something that you're really supposed to be working on, is because you're like, okay, why is this following me in different areas? That's why. So I had to really work on myself. And that was the first journey. It's the journey of the self, realizing what I could do, that I was good enough to do it, worthy enough to do it. Because,
Mm,
all those things go in your mind. Am I worthy enough to speak with God, to speak
hmm.
with Jesus? And then archangels. I mean, like all of these beings that would come forward. Then there are galactics. It was just mind blowing.
Mind blowing. I had the same experience. And you're like, I would say I was a galactic hotel out on a highway. I was like, they were coming in and they were going out, and I didn't understand it all. And I didn't have anyone to communicate to
Yeah.
with about it. And I knew I was protected, which I'm sure you understood too. But
Yeah.
there was that contrast of understanding. You have to understand the dark to understand the light. You have to
Yes.
understand the frequencies to understand the beings. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like our crash course, because there was no time to waste. Like, we had to go through that.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
With
And I wouldn't
faith.
change it for anything. And it's
No.
funny because just like you said, I knew I was safe. For someone that was bullied in my human life, I had
Mm,
no fear of anything in spirit, like at
interesting.
all whatsoever.
Mm.
So it was fascinating to me. And I'm like, why am I like that? I freak out over humans, but like spiders scare me, but oh, a ghost,
Oh, a galactic being. Oh, hey.
Oh,
What
hey.
was your husband thinking? Like, were you sharing all these things with your family, or were you kind of like keeping it close to the chest and then experiencing it and then sharing? Because
I
it's like, it's an unsure territory.
it is. I kept it to myself for a smidge of a bit.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then I started to tell my
Makes
husband
sense.
about it, and he's like, why would you be nervous to tell me? I'm open-minded. I mean, he was nothing but he's amazing to begin with, but nothing but amazing with this journey. And then when his dad passed a few years ago, I was able to bring forward messages, and I give him Reiki, and very open. My mom was thrilled when I told her about this.
Oh,
Um, So, and I had some family members that were like, what do your doctors think? And I'm like,
Why? Why
"Eh,
would that? Why would you ask me that
I
question?
know. I'm like, what do yours think?
What do you
Because
mean?
yeah, religion and whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
and I didn't even give it a thought. Everyone has, their own opinions and they have the right to that.
Mhm.
And that's something
Mhm.
that I think was really, really brought me peace because or I worried so much about what other people would think. I still do. I'm human,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I can get in that zone now of remembering everyone's on their own journey. What they think is none of my own business. It's
Mhm.
about the people that resonate with me, that I can help, that I can guide, that I can, you know, interact with, and that's the blessing and that's the joy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good way to describe it. And I think a really good witness for people who are listening because they
Mhm.
may be experiencing some of these things and they don't understand it and they don't know how to approach family and they don't know how, we
Yeah.
often say when you have these understandings and you have these discoveries, you want to like shout it from the rooftops. You want like everyone to understand what you understand. And it's
Yes.
not always received, but
Yeah.
that's the journey of like feeling it out, learning to navigate it, and then understanding that ultimately it's you. It's how
Hmm.
you stand in your power. It's not really about everyone else, like you just said. It's about
Yeah.
you and and how you want to honor that and how you want to navigate your life through that. Well, that's
Yeah.
amazing though to hear, you're beloved and you were together since you were 13. It's incredible. And
Yeah.
just as being physical beings going through that love journey, you experience so many milestones, so many experiences from
Yeah.
such a young age. And then add this into it. It's really cool. I would say that's like, you guys are very tight. So, mm,
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because Ray is in construction and he'll call me up and be like, yeah, you might get some calls from some of the guys that want sessions or something like that. Cause he'll talk, I call it woo woo. He's woo woo
uh-huh.
talking. And I think that it's amazing that and I'll hear him if we're driving, I'll hear him mumble something and then he'll say thank you because he's talking to his guides.
Oh, I
Like,
love
please
that.
let me be able to pull out into traffic with, not a lot of traffic, all that, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And so it's beautiful to see that. It's never forced, of course, as you know, but it's
Hmm.
beautiful when he sees the change that's in me and then starts incorporating some things in his life. I always say to the guides, is Ray gonna awaken? He's aware, he's spiritually
Hmm.
aware, but he didn't have a spiritual awakening, so to speak.
Yes.
And he'll get
Yeah.
certain things and he'll get goosebumps. He goes, okay, this is your thing, not mine. He
Right.
goes, I'll be with
Yeah.
you on the journey, but woo, no.
Yeah. But he resonates with you. So I say that too. Like, our connection with Dina and our connections that we have with other people, especially my beloved also, we are resonating at a frequency that is in alignment with them. And
Yeah.
you've grown together, which I think is fascinating. Where my marriage, we did not. I was elevating my frequency and he was not. So that happens on that journey. It happens where one doesn't, but you guys were connected and aligned and continually stayed in that state, which is amazing. It's really cool. Um, I think what I think would be interesting is like, how did you start hearing that you were being called to heal? Because having the knowings, having all the clairs, having the things open up ultimately leads to you understanding your soul's purpose, why you're
Mhm.
here on the planet, why do you have all of these experiences and gifts?
Yes. Well, I was reading a book. Don't even ask me what it was. It was a thin book. I can see it, but I think it was like a book by Sonia Choquette or something like that,
Hmm.
Hearing Your Guides or something. And they were talking about in the book about knowing that you're a healer. And my hands were buzzing. The energy
Wow.
was moving like nobody's business, and I'm like, I am not making this up. This is why this is your own journey. Don't rely on anybody else. Take it from someone that relied on everybody else for
Yes.
validation.
Yep.
Um, this is your own journey. You have these feelings, you see things, you know things, you hear things that other people can't. So you have to own that and trust that.
Yes.
And the more you do that, the more comes forward for you. And I remember saying to my husband, because I can't travel far, and I said, I wonder if anyone does Reiki by me. I'm really drawn to Reiki. And I didn't know that there was 9 million different types of Reiki. So my husband's like, look it up. And I happened to find someone that she was like 2 seconds from me and she does massage and reflexology. I'm like, oh, this is glorious. So I went and got a massage with the addition of Reiki. After going to her a couple of times and having very profound experiences with the energy, and being able to read her, like she was very open, of course. So I, would kind of practice on her and say, is it okay if I tell you what I'm getting? And she's like, absolutely. And then she said, do you want to be attuned? I said, what kind of Reiki do you do?
Ooh.
I never
Mm-hmm.
asked you that. And she said, Kundalini Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
And even my book says practical Reiki, but it's just like in Harry Potter where they don't like saying Voldemort, you don't say his name. It's like people don't say Kundalini. I'm like, Kundalini, say it. It's life force energy, just say it.
Right. Just say
So
it. Get it out there.
just get it out there. So, and I'm all about it. It is that life force energy, that mix of Mother Gaia and source energy together in the heart space. And it just, the attunements blew my mind, the energy blows my mind. Um, and you never have to worry about, did I miss my opportunity? It will always find you again, always.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
never worry about it if you think, oh, I didn't do this and I should have. Nope. God will bring it back to you because that's how it works. I know
Mm-hmm.
it for a fact. I've seen it on the other side, how we do things. And now I'm getting covered in chills. But you don't miss it. It comes back when
Yeah.
you're ready.
When you're ready. I believe that too. For those who don't maybe understand what Reiki is, and I know
Mhm,
that could be like a long drawn out thing because
mhm.
it's complex, but a brief overview so that they can understand also not just Reiki in itself, but like a baseline for where you were to where what you're doing now so that they can
Yeah.
understand, because I think that would be helpful. It's coming to me.
Yes. I knew in my being that I was a healer just because of how I was buzzing with the energy and felt the energy, how open I was with it. But healing is, I am the conduit of the energy. You're the healer. The recipient is the actual healer of the energy because you have to be open enough. So there are some people that are like, can you please, I've got this headache. I need you to work on my headache. But the reason that you might have the headaches is because of all of the stories that you're telling yourself. So you might have um, a lot of your shadow aspect come up before you see a relief, maybe with the headaches, because you're working that energy through. So it's just so profound and amazing because it is so different for everybody when they are receiving the energy and what
Hmm.
they're ready for. And
Hmm.
you can't harm with it. It is something that is done with love from source, from Mother Gaia, and it's just a beautiful frequency. Each healing modality, like I do Rahani celestial healing. I was also gifted by God in the Seraphim, something called rainbow light cord healing, that I am navigating now and was fully attuned to when I had passed in November. And each one has a different frequency, and you can use it in a different way.
Hmm.
And it's beautiful. A lot of people don't realize you have your own healing ability. You don't have to be attuned to anything. Activate your own. You feel that energy buzzing, use it. See what you can do with it. Play with the
Hmm.
energy.
Hmm. Hmm. So having now, started out in Reiki and understanding that you got attuned and you started working on people,
Mhm,
that journey of healing, and you said you always felt like you were a healer. Did
mhm.
you feel like you were in your place? Like this is what you were meant to do, and you just felt
Oh, I
complete
was
resonance
born.
with it? Yeah,
Yes,
that's
I was
amazing.
born. I was born to do this. It's so crazy because being a kid, and I started right out of high school working at the bank. So I knew
Hmm.
working at the bank for 15 years. I did get really good. I was very good at what I did. But what I did was help people. What do you need? How can I help you?
Hmm.
And so when I started learning all of this, and the guides were teaching me, you have certain guides that come in to teach you certain things, guides that will come forward with the Reiki and all of that. And it was understanding like I'm doing this. I can actually do like I'm like at a loss for words, and I'm sure people out there understand this. You're like dumbfounded by what you're experiencing and what you can do,
Hmm.
and it's profound. I mean,
Yeah.
that's word of the day is it's profound, life changing magic,
Hmm.
and I in every fiber of my being, I'm like, I get to do this every day. I get to live this. And I call it living paranormally, because that is what's normal for a human, is to live paranormally. So I'm trying to
Ooh.
make the paranormal normal.
Yeah,
So
that's really cool. That's really cool. And you being in service and dealing with all kinds of different personalities, all kinds of different people, all kinds of different energies, although you weren't doing that at the time, is a
right.
complete polar shift from banking, right?
Yes.
But I always say that everything we've done up until the point of where we are has been our path to teach us and train us. And,
Oh
being in
yeah.
service, learning how to deal with all different kinds of people. So you take
Yeah.
that now to what you're doing and it makes sense.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
yeah, it's really cool. So I think, most people who are listening to the podcast have tried or dabbled in some sort of modality. They've either done a sound healing or maybe have worked with a Reiki practitioner or tried meditation or,
Mhm.
they're on that path of trying to understand what that is. And I think, for me personally, it was when my father passed. I was having big questions about religion. Things weren't resonating with me. I was like making decisions about my children, what I wanted their belief system to be if I didn't know what mine was, and all of these little things that start adding up and getting
Right.
greater and greater. Well, I don't understand this. This doesn't feel right. So that
Mhm.
gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're looking for more and more answers. But then ultimately, it brings you into your healing journey.
Yes.
It brings you into your healing journey. So you as a healer experience that. But then now you having your heart condition
Mhm.
just had a new experience in
Yeah.
November
Mhm.
where you actually left this physical body and went into the dimension of love and, you know, outside of this three-dimensional reality. And it was scary, but ultimately it's another experience that you're talking
Mhm.
about, just like working at a bank, that gave you
Yeah.
that shift to completely expand all of your perceptions
Yeah.
and perspectives and understandings to
Mhm.
new work that you'll do. I can't wait to hear all about that and share this with the community.
Yes.
So can you talk about that? I know that, that must have been really scary for you.
It's really interesting because to talk about my NDE, my death experience, basically,
Hmm.
um, leading up to it, I didn't share, but with a couple people in the spiritual community that I'm close with, that I always felt I would die young. It was just a knowing.
Hmm.
Um, and then I had a friend, a really close friend of mine, who had said, Kristen, look, when I was home for a couple of weeks after everything happened in November, she goes, look what you messaged me. October 30th, early in the morning. I don't think I told you this.
No.
Early in the morning, I heard, like I can hear you right now. There was a male that came forward and felt very archangel. And he said a whole paragraph. I don't remember anything he said. He said a lot of stuff. I'm like, how could I not remember that? And then the female voice came forward and she only said two sentences, but the one that I remember is, it's happening, it's time.
Hmm.
Kristen, it's happening, it's time.
Hmm.
And I remember, I'm so glad that I actually messaged that and didn't keep it to myself. I tend to email myself my experiences and then it gets lost, in email land, and to go through everything. But on November 3rd, which is my husband's birthday, that morning I was feeling wonderful. And understand that my husband is never home in the morning. He's always up and out. He has to be somewhere. He's driving all over. He's in construction, owns his own business now. Our daughter is 21, will be 22 in a couple of weeks. She goes to college. She's got a busy life, couple of jobs, everything. They are never home, never. So I was running my sixth group channeling class that morning, and it was like 8 o'clock-ish or so. And I remember just feeling so good. It was like one of my better mornings where I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I feel good today. I don't feel as many palpitations. I don't feel as much pain or anything like that. So I went into the shower, door was open, to the bathroom, and Now I remember I turned around because I washed with shampoo first and then I put my conditioner in and I let my conditioner sit in my hair while I, say some prayers, wash my face. So I was starting with prayers, turned to the water, and that's when it happened. And I remember I was just pulled right out and I instinctively leaned against the wall of the shower. And that's when my spirit came out of my crown and I
Oh,
faced myself and I knew exactly what was happening. And I remember thinking in that moment, it, I just died. It just happened. And I slid down the shower wall, fell over because we don't
oh,
have any glass anymore. We just, redid the bathroom. So thank God there's no glass there because I hit my head on the marble where you walk
oh,
in. And the dogs heard the thud. And my husband said, well, whatever you did in there, you got the dog's attention, Kristen. And he turned and looked, and then he can see my head there. So he ran into there. He had to immediately start with chest compressions. He's like, I don't even remember how long
oh
he
my
was giving
gosh.
me chest compressions. He said, because every time he would stop, I would turn blue and purple. So he had to constantly do it. So he would not have been able to call at the same
Oh my
time. So
gosh.
Emily was home and he was screaming for Emily. Emily came in. But what I remember was when I was out of body and I fell, I saw myself turn purple. And Ray said, you actually turn blue, then you turn purple. So I saw myself turn purple. I zoomed into my daughter Emily's face and I could see how steadfast she was. She was just, you do what you got to do. She was in the moment, do what you got to do. She wasn't freaking out. Just like her dad, doing what he's got to do. I could not see Ray. I could not see his face. And then immediately the ambulance and they started breathing for me. And from there is when I was sucked out of this realm and I went straight to God.
Oh my goodness.
That was the
Wow.
first that was the first encounter that I had. I've
Ooh.
had more memories that have come up. So my higher self is a seraphim angel, and I could see them swirling around me. And God is masculine and feminine. I say he because of my Catholic upbringing, but
Hmm.
God is masculine and feminine, and this big, huge ball of yellow light, warm yellow light. And I keep saying it's like the sunset when you see that warm yellow, um, just beautiful. And I was so free. I remember kind of swirling around and there's no body. So you're immediately lighter. And I remember swirling around going, oh, I miss this, because you're dancing around.
I love it here.
How could I forget this? It was all of these immediate knowings all of a sudden because you have that veil over you. And um, the biggest thing too is a lot of our heaviness is not just our body, it is the low vibrational feelings we carry. The
Mm,
guilt, the shame, the anger, all of these things we get so annoyed and agitated and frustrated. All of those low vibrations, they really weigh us down. So I was like, oh, so expansive and
yeah.
so full of love and light. I can feel it in my heart chakra now. Um, but speaking with God, and it was just this telepathic going back and forth. And God was so proud. Look what you accomplished, is what he said. Look what you accomplished. I'm so proud of you. You're so amazing. That's so amazing. Look what you did. And we were talking, and I said, um, you
Mm.
know, Kristen always felt shame for being very childlike. That's always my biggest thing. And God said, you get it from me. Just like
Uh-huh.
you get certain characteristics and traits from your parents and everything. That's from God, this whimsical, um, magical, just loving life, loving all of it, loving everyone. There was no fear of, oh, the things I did in life, God knows, or I
Uh-huh.
was so at peace.
No
Um,
judgment. No
no
judgment.
judgment,
Yeah. Yeah.
no
That's
judgment.
huge.
And all of a sudden, while I was having conversation with God, all of these rays of light came on me. And the joy of doing this when you're spiritually awakened and having friends that do it is they validate things for you. So remember some of these things because they validated it for me afterwards. But all of these rays of light came on me, and God said, look at a ray of light, and I could hear the whispers, Kristen, Chrissy, Kristen, Chris, Kristen, all the nicknames everyone would call me. Some people were screaming, some people were mad, crying, like I could hear. And he said, if you look at one ray, you can go to that individual. Like I could go there, I could see them. I don't have a memory of that, but I know I did it. It's weird. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I know I did
Mm-hmm.
that, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm, for some reason they're blocking me to see their faces. And my guides are like, you don't want to see them that way. You don't want to see them
Mm-hmm.
in that way. They were really hurting. Um, and Kristen tends to think,
Wow.
oh, we're just me. But the connection in spirit is just so profound. So when you're praying for someone, they get it. They hear it. I was unresponsive for 20-ish hours. So, they had to get me some rays, like they couldn't leave right away. Yes, they were breathing for you because I told Ray, so don't tell me anything. I need to remember things in order to tell you. So he didn't tell me anything. But the love that I felt in all of the prayers were profound. I had just so many rays of light just all over the place. Um, I did have a life review, but the life review was beautiful. It didn't show like all the times I've hurt anyone or anything like that. It showed the joy,
Mm-hmm.
me making someone laugh. The one that is very crystal clear is must have been 2-ish, and I was wearing a little dress. My mom was in a blue dress and I was handing her a flower, and I could feel my mom's love for me and the joy
Oh,
from doing that. But it was making someone laugh, giving them a gift, being with them. It was with everybody, and it was such a gift to be able to experience what others experience when you
yes.
interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done another YouTube show, and I had read some of the comments on there. And one individual said, you must have done so much good in your life to do that. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean I'm a perfect person, but the way Kristen learns, I'm very hard on myself. So God didn't want to show me things that were going to beat me up, that I was
Right.
going to remember in this physical form.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the joy and the happiness, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life for people, because I know what that feels like in
Mm.
others, to spark that in others. The laughter, the joy, the happiness, all of these things. And I had a choice. And the memory that came up to me, I knew I had a choice. Kristen, do you want to stay or do you want to go? Do you want to go back? You can stay. I could stay if I wanted to. Um, because I accomplished what I set to do. That's the new memory that came back. I wanted to overcome the self, and I wanted to help others. And I did that. And it just strikes me when my guide showed me that, because people think they don't make a difference,
Yes.
but we don't have just one purpose. We have purposes, and they change and flow. Maybe I'm a healer to start with, and then I'm doing sessions, and then I decide to do this, and you do all these different things. But just being a kind person to
Mm-hmm.
others is a purpose, and it's a great one.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that they gave that back to me. Um, from there, when I decided that I was going to go back, I did go and I saw everybody, everybody I've ever channeled, animals, ancestry, my family, my friends that have passed. Everybody was there. Guides were there. It was just as far as your eye can see was everybody. And one of my friends in the spiritual community, I channel her son quite often. He was front and center. And I said, oh my gosh. And we smiled at one another, and he has this smirky smile with one side that rises up higher than the other, and we embraced. um, animals. And when I think about it, because when I did mediumship for years, when I did mediumship, and they would always say, tell my mom I didn't suffer. There's one dog in particular that was hit by a car, and to tell my mom I didn't suffer. God pulled me out. And people that are in spirit will tell me that, but they would always turn and look at me and talk specifically to me. And I always wondered why, but thought, oh, I'm just channeling,
Yeah.
because they knew what was going to happen years ahead of it happening. They knew because it was in my plan. I was
Wow.
supposed to die at 44. So, and it doesn't hurt. It's a blink of an eye. So please understand that if you have loved ones that you feel have suffered, when you see them move, look at their eyes, if their eyes are open. Because I was not there. My daughter is obsessed with people's eyes, because when you look at them, they're like the nebula, right? The universe,
Yeah.
the galaxy in there. It's not
Hmm.
just one color, it's just the depth of all of these flecks of other colors in there. And when I was intubated, I opened my eyes, and Emily got all excited, and the nurse said, sweetie, she's not back. That's just the body's reaction. And Emily said to me later on, Mom, those weren't your eyes. They weren't yours. So the eyes are the window to the soul.
Hmm.
Color
Hmm.
is a frequency. You're looking at our frequency. When you look into someone else's eyes, you're seeing their soul. You're seeing their song and their frequency. So there was no pain. I didn't even have a chance when I died to be like, oh my gosh, like I can't breathe. There was no gasping. There was none of that. I was out.
Hmm.
I was just out. Um, but to have, it's just the memory of my daughter seeing that with me being intubated. I was unresponsive. I wasn't reacting to anything they were saying. Um, but seeing everybody there, and when I decided, okay, I'm going to come back, I went to this hall of learning, and it was the colors, just like in your mind's eye, the colors are so profound that anyone who's clairvoyant and you see colors swirl around when you're meditating, things like that, they're just vibrant, they're alive.
Mm.
um that's how it that's how it is on the other side. Everything's alive, colors are alive, everything's alive. And it was this white library looking, it looked like an old-fashioned library, but like super clean. It was like so bright white, and the walls went all the way up, and these huge windows, and it's like I could see galaxies or something outside the windows. Um, but where I was sitting, my higher self was next to me, and I had two guides in front of me. I can't see those guides. I don't know what they look like, and I keep saying I want to know who they are. That memory hasn't come back yet, but I know there were two guides there because I can see these two illuminated beings when I close my eyes and remember that. But I was looking at my plan, my contract, and the only way I can describe it is like the Marauder's map in Harry Potter. It
Mm.
moves. You can see everything. You can see all the moving parts. And it's like, okay, I didn't have anything because I came in this world, which was an interesting experience that I had with my higher self, who is a seraphim angel. I wasn't meant to be here in human terms, and I had slipped in. It's like, nope, I need to do this here and not be in spirit to help others. I have to be here to do what I need to do and help. And I slipped in all of a sudden. So we only made plans until 44 because I was going to slip out. Okay, I'm going to stay. I had a choice. So now I need to make plans. And I remember saying, no, we're not doing all of these things. We're going to make it good. So it's like,
We're
what
gonna
did I
wipe it
make
clean.
good? I know. Because you know how sometimes you just want to slap your higher self, like,
Yeah.
what were you thinking having me go through this? You know, that kind of thing.
You were like, no, we're gonna redo this.
Exactly. So, and I remember saying, what did you do up there, Kristen? Like, what did you do up there? But and some of the lessons I do understand now, and I was actually recently told. But when I was there and I was deciding what to do, I was calling the shots. nope, we're not doing that. We're not putting her through that. We're going to do this. We're going to make it amazing. Let's do this. And when I came back, I was back, like totally unresponsive to, I woke up, I was still intubated. My husband had to calm me down, and I kept waking up because I was fighting. I was really trying to talk to get out. They actually had to really sedate me more to give my husband like a few hours of sleep. And then they took everything out and they made sure everything was okay. But when I was back, I was back. Like they didn't expect me to have, I guess, a full recovery. Did I have
Yeah.
brain damage? I hit my
Hmm.
head, like all of these things. They didn't know what to expect. So when I was back, I was back, and it was night and day. My parents came, and this was interesting too, because my mom um, channels as well and is very, intuitive, connected with her guides. Not, she doesn't do it as a profession. She does it to live her best life, which is why I
Hmm.
love this. You can be a banker and be spiritual.
Yeah.
So on their way to the hospital, she had said, guides, please give me a sign that Chrissy's okay. Please give me a sign she's okay. So my mom is my tree and I'm her apple. That's our nickname for one another. So because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So when she got to the hospital, the head nurse came over to her and she goes, "Hi, I'm going to be taking care of your daughter. My name is Apple."
Oh my gosh. There you go,
And my
mom.
mom goes, "What?" And she said, "I know." She goes, "My parents named me Apollonia and my friends call me Apple. What are the chances of that?"
Right. Thank you,
So
guides.
thank you, guides. So, but I was back, and my mom had said when she walked in the door on Saturday morning, this happened on November 3rd, which was a Friday, Saturday morning, the 4th, when my parents walked in, I was like, "Hi,
Hi, guys.
hi." And mom says, "You were so alert and awake." And I still had the conditioner in my hair. So I had like these little squiggy, like Dr. Susie things going on. And she goes, "It wasn't at the top." She goes, "It was at the side of your head. So when you turned your head and you had this squiggly thing," and she's like, "Just the expression on your face was like that of when you were a kid, when you were a
Mm.
baby. It was just that contentment and joy." And my husband and I were we had just eaten dinner, and we got back in the truck, and I was just looking outside, and I was just had this look on my face, and my husband goes, "Why are you smiling like that?" And I said, "I'm just happy." And he teases me, he goes, "Are you going to kill Batman?" Like I've got the Joker smile.
I am going to do good for the world.
So I'm like, "I'm just happy." And
Mm.
that's the face. He goes, you're making that face again. You did in the hospital. It was just total totally being just content and at
Contentment.
peace and
Hmm.
happy. I was so happy to be back.
Hmm.
Um, and to know that you're loved.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and
What a
to
beautiful
be,
experience.
yes, yes. But
Mm.
then when I was back, and it was really, I remember the laughter in the hospital, and people think you just, your heart stopped. And I did get a defibrillator. I was in the hospital for 6 days, four in one hospital, then transferred to the Heart Institute. So my cardiac specialist can do the defibrillator. And my husband he made a sign for me. And I would say, "What is it? What happened?" Because they call it 51st date syndrome, because you can't remember more than 30 seconds and you can't remember more than a couple minutes. This is for days.
Wow.
So I kept saying, "Why am I here? What happened to me?" And I was asking it so much that they gave me a sign. So my mom and Ray just looked down at my hands, and I was like, "I'm holding a sign." And I picked it up, and "You fell in the shower." And I went, "Oh, you fell in the shower? Are you okay?" So he's like, "So I had to change the wording on there." So I knew I fell
Refining
in
the
the
messaging.
because Ray's like, "Who's in the hospital bed? You're concerned of me and you're in the hospital bed."
Oh my
So
gosh.
but it was, I remember there were funny things that happened. Um and I just remember the laughter. But I remember saying, I don't know if I want a defibrillator. I need to think about this. Can I go home and think about it?" And Ray looked at me and he goes, "You died. You fell in the shower. You're getting one."
Yeah,
Like, no
right.
choice. And I was like, "Okay."
Okay.
Because I kept
End
forgetting.
of discussion, period.
End of discussion. So
You know, it's an amazing, 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 amazing story. But like you coming onto the planet with your brightness and your shine and sparkle and, the way that you were outwardly facing the world prior to your NDE, right? You being that seraphim angelic being that dropped in. And
Yeah.
that's a thing. So you did that to come in and do a mission. And that's what you were dulling your shine. You were dulling your vibration just because it wasn't in resonance with everyone else, but it was naturally who you were. It
Mhm.
naturally was the essence of your soul being, your energy body, like
Yeah.
so vibrating high,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Which,
what made you
yeah.
feel uncomfortable because people would always say, "Well, why are you so happy? Why?" Because they just
Yeah.
don't resonate that in that frequency,
Yes.
and you stand out in that frequency.
Yes. Well, and I think the biggest thing is what happened. So my higher self, her name is Azra. Um, Crazy how I know the name. It was a whole experience to learn and understand that my higher self was a seraphim. I had angel wings that popped open in my back. It was a thing. I felt it. It's crazy. But Azra came to me and said, Kristen, you need to talk to your mom about how you came here. You weren't meant to be here.
Mm.
I was to be aborted. And that I was told this a few years ago. And this was, I was getting ready. It's always in the shower. It's like something with the water. It's
Yeah,
always in the
same.
bathroom when this
Mm.
happens. I call them hottie epiphanies.
Yes. You're channeling
So,
through the vibration of the water, you know,
yes,
it's a
yeah,
conduit.
yes. So when Azra told me that, I called my mom and I'm like, why is my higher self telling me this? And she goes, how on earth do you know that? The only one who knows that is your father and me.
Because I
Because
know,
my
mom.
mom, there's a big gap between my sisters and myself, like 13, 14 years between, my older sister and myself. And she goes, it was unheard of in that time in the late
Mm.
1970s to be pregnant, my age, everything else. So I was going to be aborted. And she was there getting ready to have one. And my dad called and said, no, keep the baby. There are no cell phones then. So what are the
Ooh.
chances that caught her in
Yes,
time
everything
to
lining
say,
up.
yep.
Wow.
So I said, it took me a couple of days, but I said, Azra, why did you tell me that? And she said, you always ask for validating evidence, for proof. I needed you to know that because you have no way of knowing that,
Mm.
because I need you to trust what I'm telling you. You don't have a heart problem. You brought with you your seraphim heart that beats at a higher frequency, which is why I have electrical issues and my heart beats too fast.
I get it.
And I didn't trust it. And Azra said, Kristen, why do you think that every time I've had 4 heart surgeries? Why do you think every time you had a surgery and they successfully ablated the area, it came back in a different spot? So when I saw my new cardiac specialist, Dr. Gerchuk, um, he he was uh, let's do this. I said, okay, let's do this. And he was like so pumped, and he's like, I got it, I got it. I mean, he really ablated that area. And my heart was numb for about a week, and then I got super sick again. And this was before the NDE, the summer before the NDE. It was in like June 2023. And when it started again and I went to the office, he came in and he was white as a ghost, and he goes, they're back. Because I was very sick when I was there for my checkup. And Azra said, it moves. And Dr. Gerchuk goes, Kristen, it's not supposed to move. It's there, you ablate it, and it's
Wow.
gone.
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
validating what Azra had told me.
Mm-hmm.
So just that validating evidence, that proof of what's going on, and I need to trust that now.
Yes.
I trust was
Yeah.
what was told to me. I had no way of knowing it. So I have my seraphim heart here with me.
It's amazing.
So although I
It's
have a
amazing.
defibrillator, I still have my heart issues. They couldn't fix it. So it will stop. It doesn't regulate my heart, the defibrillator. It only recognizes a dangerous rhythm and will
Mm-hmm.
shock me in case of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Mm-hmm.
everything's recorded too. So if I feel weird things, I can call and be like, something's really wrong. And they can
Mm-hmm.
go online and see.
Wow, that's amazing. The technology around that.
Yeah. They can see the
When
next day. It's like everything gets
mhm,
uploaded at night. It's fascinating. So
it
I feel
is.
comforted knowing, okay, he can see this.
Yeah. And when you were in, what sounds like what was the Akashic Records, basically, right? Doesn't it sort of
Mhm.
sound like the Akashic Records? The what did you call it? The label that you gave it?
Hall of Learning.
The Hall of Learning. So when you're describing it, I'm seeing it like it was beautifully described. So I could actually visualize that. When you were in there and you were able to wipe the slate clean, to recreate what the
Mhm.
next part of the work that you're going to do on planet Earth was, do you remember? Do you remember what you did, what you created?
I do now. I
Mm,
remember one thing. It is actually 111. Isn't that interesting? I was
that's
covered in chills and they
amazing.
said, look, 111. So the ones follow me so much, I had to tattoo it on my arm. But so I really wanted to, I am so loved and supported here. I'm so lucky and blessed that I'm able to be me. Yes, I lost a couple of friends because of what I can do, which was very difficult. However, everybody else stuck with me. And those that, kept me at arm's length came around and I give them readings and everything else. So I'm very loved and supported. It is all in my head. I am my own worst enemy. So
Mm,
I came here to overcome ego.
mm,
But so the past month and a half, we adopted a puppy. I have
mm.
two other dogs. I have two dogs and two cats that are rescues. And my guide said to me for 6 months, so even before the NDE, because it was 5 months on April 3rd that this happened to me, for like 6, 7 months, my guide said, you need to get a puppy. You need to get a puppy. And I'm like, is this like me just wanting a baby, like me wanting a puppy? And they
Right.
said, no, Penny is 12 and she's perfectly healthy, and Lola is 8, perfectly healthy. But Lola has a lot of anxiety. So when it is time for Penny to transition, Lola has a sister with her. And
Mm,
and she's able, she feels comfortable and she'll be able to have that love there while she's grieving.
that
Um,
makes
and
sense.
yes, so it was so profound to me. Um, I I knew the dog I was getting. I went through a local rescue, which we haven't done. We always went to like the county. We would go county to the county and rescue from there. But I am online with a lot of different people, and I we went with them, and they happened to be having an event. And she goes, "It's not first come first serve, so you may not go home with a puppy that day because it depends. You have to bring a video in of your house, of your yard. You have to have references. It's like getting a baby." And so that morning, I saw an image in my mind's eye of a puppy. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not the puppy that I was looking at, which sparked the interest to go. Um, and the guide said, you're going home today with a puppy. And we wound up going there. I didn't, the dog that we originally went there for, I was absolutely adorable, but I didn't have that zing. It's like, you're not my
Mm,
baby. And
mm.
then you have other options to look at. So we looked at another puppy and we never put her back. And I noticed, I'm like, oh my gosh, because they showed me the side of her face. And I actually took a picture where you could see exactly what I saw. And she has a mole right here and she has a little patch of white. And that's exactly what I saw. And I went, I'm going home with the puppy. It was her. And I can see she'll bark at something and I'll see the spirit she's looking at. Or I had a conversation in the middle of the night with my uncle who's passed, and she started barking because I asked him to stay with me during the night because I was having a hard time sleeping. And I said, could you stay with me? And he said, sure. And she got up and started barking. So I've had a lot of experiences with Olive, my puppy, and but also a lot of frustration because she was 2 months old, so not potty trained. I have a heart problem. My husband was working more than he normally did. Um, so frustration, impatience, anger. It was my whole body felt like it was on fire because of my nerves, and I wasn't feeling good. And then I had to clean everything up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So when I finally just felt like I was going to explode, because it felt too overwhelming and too much. And I did actually look up, you know how you can have postpartum depression? You can get the puppy
Mhm,
blues too. I
mhm,
totally had the puppy blues.
mhm.
And the guides came to me and said, Kristen, and it was like a flip of a switch. What better way Because I said to myself on the other side, we're going to do this and we're going to make it good. We're going to make it good. Well, what better way to learn how to work through anger, impatience, and frustration than with a puppy?
Mhm. A teacher.
Not through a big traumatic experience, but with a puppy. So they're like, so count your blessings. It was with a puppy and you didn't choose another way.
Right.
So I was like, oh, it was through Olive. That's why there's such a connection with Olive. She fits right in within 4 days of having her. My Lola Buggy and her were like sleeping together and kissing one another and playing like lunatics. And she was just meant to be. And I knew it. When you look at her, you know that's your baby, whether it's human or fur
Oh
baby,
yeah,
that's your baby.
absolutely. Yes.
So that's one of the things that I remember. And even through this journey, I could see the growth in my husband and how he spoke to me. And I wouldn't, and the guide said, even though you felt bad in the moment, that moment gave you the opportunity to see how your interaction was with your husband, how your
Mm.
interaction was with your emotions. So the present moment is a gift. It
Yeah.
sounds hokey, but it's so true because through these lessons, I realized the growth of myself, the growth of my husband, how quickly I'm able to snap out of things, how quickly I'm able to ask friends for help. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
feeling, not so great today. I need to pick me up. I need your beautiful light and be able instead of holding it inside because that's what I did. I was a closet pessimist before I awakened. I would
Mm.
put on a smile like I was happy all the time, but I was very sad and very
Mm.
hard on myself. And that was one of the lessons. And they're actually saying to me right now, wait, there's more coming. So,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I agree with them. I mean, I also know, having met you, and the vision that I have and that Dina has and that you have and others like us, we're all finding each other right now because of the work, which is the next phase of what we're supposed to do on
yes,
the planet, which is help people in a tremendous way. And that ego that you talk about, moving through the ego
yeah,
and having been bullied, and all the things in our lifetimes that make us withdraw, recede, coward,
mhm,
and not want to step into that role of being seen,
yes,
being 100% embodying who we're meant to be in this lifetime on this planet, the physical version of your angelic being, and 100% owning it in this lifetime is also what we're supposed to do. I really truly believe it. And that's allowing others to be touched and supported. And I think, as the world is shifting, held,
yes,
coddled, understood, all of that is, what our, so it's a version of everything that you're saying. And those helpers that come in, I also have a same puppy story. So I love learning more and more about you. But
yeah,
immediately when you see them, that's them, and they are
yes,
teachers, and they're also amplifiers of vibration. They're
yes,
openers to new gateways that are coming in. They're all of these things, and
yes.
and they're meant to be here at this very moment.
Yep. They're
Yeah.
helping us navigate in that present moment in time.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I mean, Penny is 12 years old, and there was no logical reason we should have gotten her because I knew I was going to have to go in for surgery, one of my first heart surgeries, and we got a puppy. And I wanted a little puppy and Ray's like, well, she's little now. But I was just so drawn to her. And now she's like an 8-pound moose. But she was definitely, she is just one of the best. And she lays across me when I'm sick and not feeling
Mm.
well. And then we got Lola Bug. It's just each animal really, their frequency helps us, perfectly in that moment. It really is all divine. We do have
Yeah.
fated, there are things that are destined and fated, but it is how we decide our free will to interact with the fated things is how the story moves and flows.
That story of you, that was like
Yeah.
the what did you say? How you said it was in the movie, like the map in the movie. It was
Oh
moving.
yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Marauders map.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I could see the moving parts. It was like an
Oh.
indigo-y blue color. I could see however it was a timeline. And it's like I could blow it up and shrink it down. I could, okay, let's focus here. And it, like, I can see it in my mind's eye.
I
And
can
it's just,
also see it. Like when you were describing the hallway of learning, is that what you said?
yeah.
I feel like you're supposed to paint that. Like I can see you creating a visual representation of that, of all these
Mm,
really beautiful, vibrant colors and imagery. When you were describing it to me, I was hearing like, she should paint that. You should paint that. Yeah.
I'm covered in chills. Again, with, I know I mentioned to you about
The
painting. They keep
painting.
telling me to
Hmm.
paint. And my husband, like 2 years ago, I've had this paint for two
You
years. He
have to
bought it
paint.
for me. Yeah, you have to, and you just, there are certain images in my mind's eye. Like I always see my higher self, Azra, but I always see, I can see her now. Can you see her? I'm like trying to project her to
Send her
you.
to me.
Yeah, it's an eye and like the head.
Ooh.
I can see the shape of her head and everything. And I know I'm supposed to paint that. There's like certain things I'm supposed to paint, and I
Hmm.
am no artist, which is
Hmm.
why I hesitate. I procrastinate out of fear. I
That
know
is
that's
the ego. That is the ego.
yes.
Can I just remind you that's the ego?
Yep. I procrastinate out of fear, but that's one of my purposes is to put words to the things that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Just make it normal and then
Hmm.
navigate it with spirit. How should I get through this?
Yeah. It's amazing. It's an exciting experience because
Mhm.
number one, people listening, they love to hear about near death experiences because everyone wonders what is on the other side. What is it really like? Is there a God? Do we die? Do all the things? And the glowing yellow ball that is God, which is
Yeah.
source energy, which is all that is, to see that represented in such a beautiful way
Yeah.
eliminates boundaries and barriers and all of the things that are restricting people from just having unity and because everyone believes in the same thing basically, they just have different labels for it,
Yeah.
and that's a
And we think God is
unifier.
like here and
Hmm.
we're down here. And there's no,
Yes.
a friend of mine said this years ago, and I hold it dearly with me. There is no one above or below you. And
Hmm.
when I was with Source, we were equals.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
not your God, like it wasn't like that. It wasn't,
Hmm.
it was a beautiful exchange of literal energy.
Yeah.
And remember, I had talked about um, a couple weeks after I had gotten home, I had a nudge to message a friend, the one that I saw her son. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And the guides basically, in the nicest way possible, said, get over yourself and message her. So
Mhm.
I emailed her. I sent her a quick message on Messenger, and she messaged me back. She goes, "Oh my God, Kristen, when I was praying for you, he came forward." She goes, "That first of all, that's his smile. He did always did this smirk where one side was higher than the other. And he actually said, 'I'm with Kristen, we embraced.'" And that's exactly
Mm.
what happened. And then my other friend, when I was talking with her, and I didn't share my story yet, this was the first couple of weeks. And my other friend said, "Kristen, you looked like the sun. You had all of these rays of light on you."
Ah. Oh,
That
oh,
was the
I love that.
prayers. And
Yes.
then one of my mentors, Susan Kennard, she was the first one I actually spoke to about this. And speaking with her actually helped to trigger my memory. And because I remembered God, but she's like, "I saw you dancing." And that's when I was swirling around when I first was with Source going, "Oh, I remember this. This is amazing." And it was just it, to receive the validation from them and for me to give them that validation, it
Absolutely.
it was profound because they were really witnessing me on the other side, and I was
Hmm.
really there. Like it
Yeah.
is very real. There are things that I know, there's other things that I haven't shared yet because it's something for me.
Hmm.
Um, but it was it's something that keeps growing because I was intubated for a long time. So a lot happened over
Hmm.
there. And I think one of the other big things too, can you bring it back to me? They showed it to me and then they took it away. Oh, one of my best friends, Suzanne, when she came in to visit me Saturday morning when I was finally awake, um, and my memory was shot, her and her husband John came in. And John, she said, when they have to ask you questions, what's your name? When's your date of birth? Do you know what year it is? Because they needed to make sure that my brain was functioning. So it was like all of these questions, and they would wait a bit, and then all of these questions again. And she goes, every question, she goes, you could see your eyes just searching in your brain for answers. You were so confused.
Mm.
But as soon as John said, Kristen, what did you see on the other side? She goes, Kristen, you are steadfast. You knew exactly. You knew exactly what you saw. I went straight to God and was able to tell him about all of that.
Mm.
So I think the puppy just hit the door. So I jumped. Lola jumped.
Puppy's like, I want some airtime.
My husband goes, sorry. Keeping it real here.
That's
But
okay. Yeah.
so it was
You were still connected. You were still very much so
yes,
connected into that in that realm,
yes,
but still having that physical experience. Now
yeah.
I just have to share this with you because this is really cool to me. You described the beams of light coming into you, which were
Mhm,
prayers. When I channeled a message maybe a couple of months ago, I asked if praying really does help others. And they basically said, I'm going to try to remember it. They said yes, because there is no attachment on it. So you're praying for someone else. Your prayers are for, to elevate or to help or, what assistance for someone else. But there's no attachments because it's not about you, it's
mhm,
about them. So you are elevating a frequency, amplifying it and releasing it. And it's able then to magnetize to them more freely, more easily, because there are no attachments holding it back and expectations. And so
yeah.
that visual of those light beams coming to the person, it's another piece of art, by the way. Um, I can see that.
Mhm.
That's a really cool. That's really neat. It's really cool. Yeah, I love that.
Well, it
Um,
yeah, it was
mhm,
it was I love how you explain that because there's no attachment to it. It's just
mhm.
with your heart to pray for
Yes.
somebody else.
It's a different frequency because you're not
Yeah.
holding it with boundaries
Mm-hmm.
of unworthiness and all the things that
Yeah.
we do, because then we're expecting it to come back.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. I love everything about this story. There'll have to be like a part two as you're like remembering more and more and more that
Mm-hmm.
you can come
Yeah.
back and share with us. But did your work change as a result of this experience? Did it change and amplify into a new direction? Can you can you tell us a little bit about that?
It amplified in the sense where this is a natural, God-given ability. There is nothing but us in the way.
Mm,
The veil is
yes.
us.
Hmm.
So it's am I doing this? Am I worthy enough to do this? Am I helping them enough? And I would be so hard on myself. Like after a session, I'd be like, oh, I should have gotten this and I should have gotten that. But now I know whatever comes through is the exact thing that's supposed to come through to
Yes.
heal them in that moment. So even though I say I'm a Kundalini Reiki healer, I'm a multifaceted healer because I'm going to
Hmm.
heal with my words, with channeling the guides, with using healing, with whatever it might be. The power has amplified because I
Hmm.
trust it more.
More. Yes. That
And
makes
that's the
sense.
difference because I
Hmm.
would block myself and I would think. So, those that are starting on this journey, if you're like, oh, I need to do this, because I remember watching people on YouTube that said, don't talk to your guides all the time. They don't want you bugging them about things. And, just talk to them when you need these certain things or whatever. I talk to my guides all the time, every day, and
Yeah.
they help me with my grocery list. So they remind me to get the tomato because they did. And I'm like, oh, thank you,
They
because I,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
they really do. And I play with them. And
Hmm.
when you play with the energy, and I'm all about that, that whimsical aspect, that God childlike energy, the more you play, it's a high vibration, play, laughter, love, joy, instead of blocking of I'm not worthy enough, all that kind of stuff. So that's sometimes what that is what can block us from getting a message is
Hmm.
us ourselves.
Hmm.
So I'll trust if I see something, I know something, I feel something, I say it. It doesn't have to make sense at that time. Maybe I'm getting a premonition and I'm not realizing it yet, but now I'm so open enough that they'll go like this and I know it's a premonition.
Mm-hmm.
So it really has changed. It's changed my life
Mm-hmm.
because I trust me more, and to trust yourself more is to trust spirit, is to trust God.
Ooh, I love it. I know, it's amazing. And we can feel it from you. You know, I know people who are listening will feel it from you. Your authenticity is tremendous, and you exude such a high frequency. And um, I also, when I meet people, I know immediately what kind of a person they are. I know I can feel their soul when I look at their eyes. So
Mm.
when I often meet new people who are just ready to break out and awaken, it's like their eyes have a certain frequency. Their eyes are like vibrating to me. I can just feel that they're on the verge of just diving into the spiritual
Ugh, it gives
pool.
me chills.
Yeah, it's a cool experience. And
Yes.
you know, that's what people will feel from you on the other side of that. It's their spirit is aligned to that, is wanting that vibration. They're wanting to learn more, to know more. And so these stories that we tell, and you know, you being able to open up yourself and your experience and your vulnerability and your beautiful essence and your soul and everything about you, I love, is helping someone feel that ultimately it's your higher self, it's your angelic being that's in this body, it's all of it, which is what's helping people, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And I loved our time together today. I cannot wait to work with you in the future and have
Yes.
our session. I cannot wait to do that. So I might even have to just do one podcast about that experience myself, you know, talking about it. But there's, as you are progressing in your healing journey, and as you
Mhm.
are meeting new people in your life on your path and resonating with them, like we just said, and
Mhm.
diving into the next level of the healing that you're doing, you're trusting. So you're understanding more about yourself, but you're trusting the journey, working with Kristen and people like that. You're trusting it more. You're feeling a
Yes.
pull, you're honoring, you're listening. And most of the people that are on the healing journey are stepping into their soul's purpose, which might be a healer, which might be maybe just showing up in the authenticness that you are, you know,
Yes.
witnessing today. So there's so many different aspects of it. There's so many
Yes.
different aspects of it, and to just try to allow yourself to dabble in it, to experience, to ask the questions, to do it. Right, Kristen? Do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't
Do
let the
it.
ego
Do
block
it.
you. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think the other thing, and this is something else that I experienced the understanding in my NDE, is you know how people will say, well, I want to do what you do, or why can't I do that? There's a reason why, if you're trying to eat a certain way to maintain a certain body weight or use something certain on your skin that someone else is using, that's a miracle for them and it doesn't work for you, then everyone would want to come here. Then it would be easy to be human.
Right.
So
Right.
everybody has their own experience. It's just like the human realm. I can use a certain cream on my face and rave about it, and you use it and say, okay, this did nothing for me, Kristen.
Right.
You
Right.
know, that kind of thing, a hair product, whatever it might be. It's the same interpreted into spirit, where you have these gifts. We have all of these human senses interpreted into spirit senses, and we all use it in a different way. So trust your own
Mm,
journey, trust how you are using it. Do what you resonate with. Don't do what someone else is telling you to do in order to open your third
mm,
eye. I promise you, you'll open the way you're meant to open, because everything of mine opened like the Superman effect. But then spirit closed it all down. They closed it all down, and I had the hearing. No, I had the knowing and the feeling, which are to me were the hardest because of the bullying. I didn't trust myself. And then once I
mm-hmm,
trusted that more, then everything else opened up again.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So trust your journey and what resonates with you. That's what means something, not just because someone's been doing this for 20 years and they're telling you something, it may not resonate.
mm-hmm. Trust.
Trust, trust, trust.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your story. And do you want to share how people can find you if they want to learn more about you, where they can find you?
Yes, I am on social media under Infinite Heart and Soul. So on TikTok and on Facebook, on Instagram as well. But my website is infiniteheartandsoul.com. You can email me through there, and follow me on my journey, because I
Mm,
am trying to document everything more about
yeah.
how to live paranormally and all of that.
I love that, how to live paranormally. It's
Yeah.
excellent. Okay, so thank you so much, Kristen, and thank you for joining us today. And until the next time, I hope today's episode sparked insights for you on your healing journey. If you're searching for support and connection, you should join our community at spirit-calling.com. Spirit Calling is a like-minded community of spiritual individuals learning, sharing, and growing together every day. No matter what you're experiencing in your journey, you'll find resources and a community to support you along the way. Until next time, keep listening to your internal guidance and stepping into your spirit's call.